Good morning, everyone. This is the Vermont House Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. It is Friday, February 21st, 2025 at 10:02 in the morning. We've just returned from the floor and we're going to hear from healthcare advocate, particularly on the amendment to 137, which pertains to the Medigap coverage. Michael, welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Great. Thank you, Mike Fisher, healthcare advocate. I thought maybe it made sense for me at least spend a minute talking about my office and what we do first, because I don't often come to this room. And maybe just a minute about me. I served in the legislature from 2000 to 2014. So I spent a little while being Herb's state rep, and now Herb gets to be my state rep. And
That payback or?
yeah, exactly. Spent a lot of time in human services and healthcare during that time amongst committees. And since 2017, I've been the chief healthcare advocate at Vermont Legal Aid. This is a position and an office defined in state statute and fully funded with a single grant from the state. But through an RFP process parked over at Vermont Legal Aid. So I don't work for the state, and I get to be an independent consumer advocate voice, a watchdog, if you will, speaking up on behalf of Vermonters. Everywhere where healthcare policy decisions are being made, that is often in front of the Green Mountain Care Board or over at the Department of Financial Regulation and in in the legislature, but elsewhere as well. We also run a helpline. So we have 8 advocates who are on the phone today responding to individual Vermonters who are calling us because something's not working in this crazy maze we call our healthcare system. And so we do a great deal of advocacy for people who were applying for state or federal programs and having some kind of hitch in that, or just something is not working between the insurance company and their provider, or they just have a complaint. Any questions about that? Maybe I'll also just add, I often, you have received emails from me, maybe during campaign time, and asking help getting the word out. We get a decent number of cases through legislators. And of course, I want to support you in serving your constituents, but also Vermonters who reach out for help through their legislators are it's a different slice. It's people who don't know exactly where else to go. And so through you, we get cases for Vermonters who really need help. If you ever have somebody who calls you or emails you and says, I need help with something in the healthcare sphere, please grab me or email me, and I'm happy to either support you in helping them, or if it makes sense, bring that person over to make a case and have one of the advocates work it. I have with me Charles Becker, who is a member of our team who does the insurance rate review, amongst other things, does the insurance rate review process over before the Green Mountain Care Board. And when I said we do everything where healthcare decisions are being made, one of those significant areas is about the insurance rates, the insurance rate filings for the individual and small group. And that happens individual and small group and large group, actually. And that happens over at the Green Mountain Care Board. And so we are very familiar with the process of rate filings and looking at those rate filings and evaluating them. And we hire an actuary to help us with looking for errors in those rate filings. And in that process, we, particularly in the individual and small group, we're a party, and we come to the table to argue on behalf of Vermonters. Most often to argue that Vermonters can't afford the rate increases that are being requested. So over the years, we have watched the process over at DFR for MedSup and cocked our heads a little bit and gone, gee, that's an odd frame of a process. And I think we've commented a few times on it. So I very much appreciate the focus, and I think the important forward step that's contemplated here. The old process never made sense to us. And I think the process that's laid out in front of you today makes a whole lot more sense. So we're generally supportive. I think there's a few details where we're going to push a little bit. And one of them is we agree with the concept of sort of limiting. We think when there are cases that have over 5,000 lives and a rate request of over 10%, I think the bill in front of you says that the commissioner may have a hearing, and we think it should say shall have a hearing. With a little bit of a distinction, I think that DFR understands their opportunity to do a hearing as a contested case where there's going to have to be sort of a more involved presentation by the insurance companies and sort of develop, on the record presentation of the case. And we don't believe if it is needed in statute to clarify that it does not need to be a fully contested case, we would support that. But nonetheless, we think it's important for a couple of times a year, no more than 3 times a year. There's only 3 carriers that have over 5,000 lives. And so if they all asked for over 10%, there would only be 3 hearings a year. But that there be a hearing and there be an opportunity for Vermonters to participate, to give comment. There's nothing like shining a light on these things. It's important. So that's one thing, and we will present this language if requested, if the committee wants, and make sure is it Jen Carby who's working on the bill, has the language that we're talking about. So that's one area we think there should be a hearing. And then the other area is again further transparency. I'm going to turn to Charlie. There are about 25 or so carriers in the market.
I'd say it's more like 10 to 15.
10 to 15 carriers in the market. We think it's, for just basic transparency's sake, we think it's important that DFR, whenever there is a request for a rate increase, that DFR post that on its webpage in an easy to find place that X company has requested an increase of this much, and also post a link to there's a system called SURF. I'm not going to be able to remember what SURF stands for. Charlie might. System for Electronic Rate and Form Filings, because he wrote it down for me. So we're not asking DFR to post all of the documents, but if you're not really adept at SURF, and maybe even if you are, it's hard to find the rate filing that you're looking for. And so asking DFR to post very simply, this company is asking for this rate increase, and here is the link to the SURF case so that people can easily get to it. I want to recognize that when I talked to Emily Brown earlier today, yesterday, I need to go back to Emily to describe exactly what we're requesting here. Even if there's 200 Vermonters on an individual plan, so it's relatively small, we still think this is a pretty low bar to ask DFR to post these things in a place that that Vermonters can find. Any questions?
Of course. Thanks very much, and especially your description of the office and the value, that you bring not only to consumers, but also in the regulatory arena, being able to be a citizens advocate at the proper body, at a regulatory body. I think that's great. In terms of the Medicare supplemental or supplement, I guess it's called now, policies, you had, I think, a couple of suggestions in terms of the I sort of got a flavor that you distinguish between the need for a hearing, but it didn't need to be a contested case hearing versus regular hearing. Is it now a contested case hearing, or is it sometimes just a public? I understand the difference. You have a hearing and give people a voice.
So today, the trigger for a hearing has to do with the difference between different actuaries. And if there is a hearing as a result of that, Charlie, do you know?
The department considers it to be a contested case.
Right. So as I hear you in your suggestion, is that there would be a hearing, but unless there's some conflict with the actuaries, there wouldn't be a contested case.
No, I think so today there's this frankly arcane process where a hearing is required if there's a difference. Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong, if there's a difference over a certain percentage between the different actuaries.
2%.
2%. And so we're leaving that and moving to a new methodology that is for rate requests that are for over 10% increase for over 5,000 lives. I think the bill in front of you says the commissioner may have a hearing. We're suggesting that it shall have a hearing, and that we're making the further distinction that it doesn't need to be considered a fully contested hearing.
Another question on the second part. John.
Yeah, so on this point, would it make sense to let the commissioner determine whether it's contested or not? Or does it have to?
I was thinking about that. I think that if at the commissioner's discretion, sort of what I think what we're saying is sort of as a matter of course, we're not saying it has to be contested.
Yes.
If the commissioner decides that, Charlie, you have a comment about that?
Yeah, so Charles Becker, staff attorney with the Healthcare Advocate. There is language at subparagraph 4, C4, about the commissioner allowing an intervener if the commissioner determines that that party might have advanced the interests of the insured individuals. I think there might be reason to keep that language in, striking out the part about reimbursement up to $2,500, so that if there is an entity that represents Medicare supplement beneficiaries that thinks that the rate filing is out of line, that party could seek to intervene, which would, and I think at that point, make it a contested case. Yes.
This is why I have him with me.
Yeah, and thank you. On the second part, in terms of posting requests on the webpage, right, and on to surf, I think was what was suggested. Yeah, surf is very concrete. So link would is if it's a public notice, a link is pretty necessary. Is that what happens in rate increase requests for other markets? The basic comprehensive.
No, on the Green Mountain Care Board page, you can steer to a particular case and see all of the documents.
And it has a link to surf. That's not good.
I don't think
The Green Mountain Care Board does provide a link to SURF. They also post each individual document, which makes it even easier for consumers. Yeah, yeah.
so. We're not going that far. but I think if you steer to the Green Mountain Care Board page and you look in the rate review and look at previous cases, you'll see all of the comments, the public comments, the comments from my office. Green Mountain Care Board does a good job of that.
And the two.
I just want to state that we did get testimony from DFR that they know that their website is not easy to navigate.
Yeah.
So that was just a comment.
Yes.
Other questions? Emily?
For a refresher, how many contested petitions are there like here right now?
In the current process, how often is there a need for a hearing? I can only remember one
Rare.
in my time here. Now, that might not be representative because cost of care is going, if you haven't noticed, going through the roof, and rate increases are, sort of the concept of a 10% rate increase used to be unusual. I think there were 25% rate increases. There have been some very big rate increases in this market recently. So.
Question? Thank you, Michael. I just need to figure out. I know that Chair Black is going to take a look at this
Wednesday.
and I want to get this out Tuesday. I have to have a conversation with him. I mean, I think it makes sense of what you brought to us for changes, and I know there's some angst movement going from 3% to 10%. I think there's some backstops to that as well, and I think the changes that you suggest would just strengthen that backstop. And you said Jen Carvey has.
At your direction, we will share with Jen Carvey.
Maybe good with going that route of what the healthcare advocates suggest.
Yes.
I think it's good, makes sense. I had that conversation. I'd love to see the language, yeah. Maybe Commissioner Brown as well, but if you could get that to Jen Carvey, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Sure.
Too.
That's what I haven't sent it in yet. If you want. I have this one. In a good place. So, I think right now. We don't have anything. Commissioner Harrington is going to join us via Zoom. To chat with us about how, how the unemployment works with federal employees. Who are being discharged from their jobs, the federal government side. How it extensive, wondering how that works. I know Sophie, our legislative council, looked at this a little bit. It does flow through our data on it. But I think we need to understand. I'm sure you've all heard some of the letters that have been sent to these employees that could constitute a finding that they were discharged for cause, which means that they wouldn't be eligible for unemployment. And then how does the department then proceed going back funding, education and all that? So I I think we need to, I think it behooves us to better understand how that system works. For Vermonters who lost their employment because of what's going on in the federal administration, so. And that, I think we're on pretty good ground right now, so I think we can go